Where is your emergency?
13850, Angel Valley Road.
Okay, what's the problem?
2 people aren't breathing. There's no pulse.
Breathing?
Yes.
Okay, is this result of a shooting or something?
No, it was a sweat lodge.
A sweat lodge?
Yes.
Okay.
An Arizona resort has become a crime scene after 2 people died inside a crudely constructed sweat lodge, and several more were sickened. Dozens had flocked to the Angel Valley Retreat Center for a spiritual event that promised to absolutely change your life.
James Shore of Milwaukee and Kirby Brown of New York died after participating in a cleansing ceremony inside this crudely built hut.
The cause of death for the third person who died after attending the October ceremony was multi-system organ failure.
The event was hosted by self-help expert James Ray, and investigators are looking into whether criminal negligence played a role in the deaths. Ray has refused to speak with authorities and has left the state.
The way I would describe Kirby always to people was that she was drunk on life, that she loved life.
She was always willing to meet and be open to accept somebody as they were.
She and her friends were enamored of The Secret, and they were also big followers of Oprah.
It is the secret to creating the life you truly want. Make more money, lose weight, fall in love, land your dream job. My guests today believe that once you discover the secret, that you can immediately start creating the life you want.
So when Oprah had James Ray on her show, I think Kirby felt very comfortable that this guy had a lot to offer and a lot to say and a lot to teach.
Your thoughts, your feelings, and your actions all have to be firing simultaneously in the same direction. If you look at anybody who's not achieving what they desire and deserve in their life, you'll notice that one of those 3 is missing. They're maybe thinking and
your
feeling.
Thoughts, your feelings, and your actions.
That's 3 for 3.
She went to the promo in October of 2008 in the Baja, and at that promotional talk, she could sign up for the 2-day seminar and get a 2-for-1 deal. And she invited me to go with her on her free ticket.
Some of you think wealth means money. And I'll guarantee you this, you might go after the money and get rich. It doesn't mean you'll be wealthy.
There was a lot that was talked about that I thought was actually very helpful. I was impressed by Ray's charismatic abilities and how he presented on the stage. It was very uncharacteristic of me to write out a check right then and there for George to attend Harmonic Wealth in San Diego. And it was at that event that Kirby signed up to go to Sedona.
A group of participants traveled to Sedona, Arizona in October 2009 to attend a spiritual retreat. James Ray had promised people that the event would be great and that they would have an altered state. What his program was designed to do was basically to break people down. They were told not to sleep. They had to talk about very traumatic things in their past in a group setting. And at the end of the week, James Ray ran a sweat lodge. James Ray explained to the participants that they were going to do a sweat lodge and that his sweat lodge was hotter than any other, that they needed to stay in the whole time, things of that nature.
Typically, a sweat lodge is of the size for 10, 12, 15 people, and typically they do 4 rounds, and in each round people can go out, the door opens, and James did more rounds than 4. I didn't know exactly how many, but as it turns out, he did 7 rounds. And in 2009, he did actually 8 rounds because he miscounted one, so he did an extra one.
James Ray's version of the sweat lodge was a heat endurance test. It wasn't a sweat lodge. A typical sweat lodge is they go in and they relax, and it's not that difficult. In James Ray's sweat lodge, they were told to stay in there as long as possible, and as people were leaving, James Ray would try and encourage them to stay in.
During the ceremony, several people came out and they were definitely not feeling well. One of our staff was there, and she was extremely upset. She said, there's people that said that some people passed out. And I heard him say, we'll see to that after this round.
People are starting to realize something's not right here. There's people sick. James Ray kind of disregarded that people were in distress. People started coming out, and this took about 15 minutes for everybody to file out of the sweat lodge.
The woman who was part of the firekeepers team, she went back in to see whether everybody was out, and it was not. There were 3 people still in there, and they were unconscious. I just knew. It was too late.
The next thing we heard was someone knocking on the door at about 8 o'clock in the morning.
On Friday morning.
On Friday morning.
October 9th, to ask, did we know
It was
Kirby
a state
Brown?
trooper asking us if we knew Kirby Brown. And then he told us that she had passed.
At a certain point, we knew what happened in the sweat lodge. There's no question from talking to everybody involved. We know exactly what happened in the sweat lodge. It got too hot, and James Ray encouraged people to stay inside even though they were wanting to leave. But we didn't know if that's a crime.
When we began hearing his lack of attention to their need for help, I was like, this man murdered these people.
We did some research to look into James Ray's credentials. Where did he learn how to do a sweat lodge? And we didn't find anything that showed us where James Ray learned how to do these different events.
I've had the blessed opportunity to study with many indigenous traditions and in the Andes Mountains and the jungles of the Amazon, and the principle is all the same.
He claimed to have had extensive training to do a sweat lodge. Not true. He claimed to be trained in holotropic breathing by Groff. Not true. Everything he did that week that he claimed to have training in and experience and knowledge was untrue.
Nearly 4 months after his controversial sweat lodge ceremony, self-help guru James Arthur Ray has been arrested on 3 counts of manslaughter.
An Arizona jury heard opening arguments Tuesday in the trial of a self-help guru whose sweat lodge ceremony in 2009 turned deadly for 3 of the participants.
The self-help author is now headed for jail tonight, and it comes after a lot of backlash in court over his deadly Sedona sweat lodge ceremony.
The judge is a notoriously light sentencer, and instead of giving him 3 counts consecutively, he let them run concurrent. So he could have been given 6 years, but he was given 2.
We're here today because Kirby isn't. James Ray is expected to get out of prison today. After her death in the following months, it took us a number of discussions to get a little bit clearer about exactly what we wanted to do and what kind of action we wanted to take. There's a lot of people in this industry that, like James Ray, operate unethically and unsafely. And we wanted to try to figure out some way to change that. So we've put together the Seek Safely Promise, which is really both for the providers of self-help and also for their consumers to understand that this is what they're entitled to and this is what they deserve. And we were asking the providers of self-help to sign on to just some very basic values. As someone who's going to an event, this is what you're entitled to. This is like your Bill of Rights. These are your rights, and you need to ask for this. This industry has to change. It has to become infused with ethical standards and accountability.
Large group awareness training is an unregulated industry. It has been for a long time. There are a number of companies that sell this training. They have a history of problems. There is not a month that goes by that I don't receive complaints about these weekend retreats that break people down to make them over again and change them. Anyone can be hurt by them, and there doesn't seem to be any real responsibility or accountability. So I think though legislation may be a real difficult thing to accomplish, due diligence is something that can be done and should be done before entering into any program. And people should realize that these large group awareness training programs, even though they see Oprah pitching them, they are controversial and they have a history of problems. Many times in my work, people will say to me, you know, what kind of person gets involved in this stuff? As if there's a particular type of person that has a stamp on their forehead that says this person is vulnerable. If you think that you're somehow invulnerable, think again.
All the people that we talked to that were associated with James Ray seemed like regular, normal people. And I didn't see that coming. I thought that this was going to be some kind of cult. But no, these are just regular people. That's what makes James Ray so good and then also so dangerous, is because these aren't mental midgets that he's targeting. These are mainstream doctors, lawyers, normal people that become followers.
We're taking a big step here this morning because as parents, we find this tremendously hard. James Ray gets out of prison today. He is now free. We want to make sure that seekers are free to seek safely. We're going to issue him the promise. We hope he'll sign it. We hope he'll follow it. We hope that he will not hurt anyone else in the future.
I have no intentions whatsoever of certainly ever doing another sweat lodge. And
will you do any kind of self-help?
I don't know. You know, Piers.
I mean, oddly, you could be in an even better position now to help people who've been through a nightmarish experience.
I hope so.
You know, he put himself out there as being omnipotent, but in the face of crisis, he was impotent. He was unable to act. He did nothing to help the people that had placed their trust in him. He did nothing to help them. And then he walked away. He abandoned all of them. She gave him everything she had, everything. There was hardly anything left in her bank account. All of her money, all of her trust, and ultimately her life. He took it all.